black-eyed children. The rain had been falling for hours, the kind that turns streets into mirrors and makes the world feel half asleep. Eli Ramos drove with one hand on the wheel, his other clutching the thermos of lukewarm coffee he'd been nursing since midnight. It was supposed to be a short drive, a delivery to a remote client outside Dallas. But the GPS signal had vanished miles ago, and the road ahead was nothing but darkness and dripping trees. The clock on the dashboard flickered 3:03 a.m. He felt it then, that peculiar shift in the air, as if something invisible had leaned closer to the car. His headlights caught two small figures on the side of the road, standing in the rain. Children. He slowed down, squinting through the downpour. A boy and a girl, maybe 10 or 11. Motionless under a flickering streetlight. No umbrellas, no coats, just pale faces and dark hair plastered to their cheeks. He rolled down the window halfway. "You kids okay?" The boy stepped forward. His voice was calm to calm. "Can you give us a ride? We need to go home." Eli hesitated. Something about their stillness felt wrong. Their faces were too smooth, like wax left near a flame. But his conscience screamed louder than his instincts. He unlocked the doors. The two climbed into the back seat without speaking. They smelled faintly of iron and wet earth. The boy sat directly behind him. The girl stared at the window, whispering something he couldn't catch. He turned down the radio. "Where do you live?" The boy's answer came slow. "Just up ahead. You'll see." The GPS blinked back to life, though Eli hadn't touched it. The map was blank, except for a single pin labeled home. He frowned. "What the hell? You'll see," the boy repeated. His voice was lower now, rasping, older. The rain began to ease, but his wipers still squeaked against the glass. Through the rearview mirror, he caught their reflections. That's when he saw it. Their eyes, completely black. No whites, no pupils, just endless, shining voids that caught. The car jerked as he slammed the brakes. The headlights caught the rain again, except it wasn't rain. For a split second, he saw hundreds of small silhouettes in the distance, children lining the roadside, each with black, bottomless eyes reflecting the glare. When he turned back, the seats were empty. Only a faint smear of water remained on the fabric. He drove until dawn, until the rain stopped, until he convinced himself it was exhaustion or some roadside nightmare. But the next night, when he parked outside his apartment, he noticed muddy footprints by the door. Tiny ones, leading up to the welcome mat. He opened the door slowly. Inside, the air was colder than it should have been. Something whispered his name. Eli. He moved to the light switch, but it didn't work. The apartment smelled faintly of mildew and something metallic. He turned toward the hallway and froze. Two small shapes stood in the dark. The same boy, the same girl. "You said we could come home," the girl murmured. "You looked at us. You saw us." He backed toward the door, fumbling for his keys, but his fingers went numb. His heart was hammering so hard it drowned out their footsteps until one was right behind him. Cold hands touched his neck. "It's easier," the boy said, "if you don't scream." The lights flickered on. The apartment was empty. Only Eli's thermos sat on the counter, still half full of coffee. Outside, his car idled quietly, its headlights pointing toward nothing. Weeks later, his neighbor, Marissa, complained about the strange knocking. Always to knocks, then silence. One night, she finally looked through the peephole. Two children stood in the hallway, heads tilted upward. When she whispered, "Can I help you?" they smiled in unison. "Can we come in? We need to use your phone." Marissa's breath fogged the glass. "I don't think so." The children didn't move. The boy leaned closer to the door, his eyes completely black, reflecting her own terrified face back at her. "Please," he said softly, "you'll feel sorry if you don't." The hallway light flickered, then went out. They found Marissa the next morning, sitting on the couch, television still on static. The front door was open, no signs of struggle. Just two small, wet footprints leading toward the kitchen and stopping at the window. On her phone, the last message she'd typed but never sent read. There inside, the reports spread again. Same description, same time, same impossible calmness. Children asking to come in. Voices echoing over security cameras that only recorded static. Every witness said the same thing. They felt paralyzed with dread, like something ancient was pressing on their chests. A few investigators collected testimonies, truckers, night guards, suburban families, each swearing they'd seen the black-eyed children. Some vanished, some quit their jobs, some refused to speak ever again, but the pattern never changed. They appear when it's darkest. They ask politely, and they never come in uninvited. Some say the black-eyed children are not ghosts, not demons, but echoes, fragments of something old, searching for entry points through human compassion. Others believe they're parasites, feeding on fear, memory, and warmth, but no one knows for sure. What is known is that the moment you notice the black eyes, it's already too late, because noticing them means they've already noticed you. It's been years since Eli's disappearance. His apartment remains unoccupied, but neighbors still report lights turning on at night, and the faint sound of knocking always to knocks, never three. Security footage shows nothing at the door, only movement in the reflection of the glass. Sometimes, when it rains, a child say yes. The playground at 3 a.m. The first thing Kenji noticed was the laughter. It was a sound that didn't belong to Bright for the dead of night, too close for a memory he was trying to forget. He stood at the gate of Setagaya Park, listening to the childish giggles echo where there should have been only the hum of distant traffic and the rustle of ginkgo leaves. His phone screen cast a cold blue light on his face. It read 3 a.m. He shouldn't have been there. He should have been at home, staring at the ceiling of his tiny apartment, listening to the low groan of the refrigerator as he willed the morning to come. But rest had become a foreign country since the diagnosis, since the doctor had said, "We've done all we can," and Kenji had simply bowed, unable to form a word past the sudden, sharp hollowness in his chest. That was when his nights began to unravel, thread until all that remained was a quiet, suffocating darkness and the feeling that he was an untethered boat, drifting farther and farther from a shore he could no longer see. Tonight, the usual stillness had been broken. The laughter pulled him forward, a string tied to a part of him he thought had vanished. He pushed the cold iron gate, its hinges screaming a protest that was swallowed by the night. Inside the park was a collection of shadows and shapes. The slide was a dark, curving spine. The sandbox, a pale, empty crater under the jaundiced glow of a single street lamp. And then he saw it, the source of the sound. The swings. Two of them, side by side, swaying in perfect, hypnotic unison. They moved with a rhythm that defied the windless air, a gentle back and forth, as if pushed by invisible hands. With each forward arc, the giggling crested a cascade of pure, unadulterated joy. But the seats were empty. Kenji's heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence between the peals of laughter. He knew the stories. The local tales whispered by old women at the market, the ones teenagers dared each other to test. They spoke of the Yuru no Ka, the night children who came to play in the hour when the city held its breath. He fumbled for his phone, his thumb hovering over the camera icon. Part of him, the rational part that still paid bills and commuted to an office, screamed at him to turn around, to run back to the sterile quiet of his apartment. But another part, a deeper, more desolate part, was captivated. This felt like a secret, a tear in the fabric of his mundane, ending world. He wanted proof. He needed to know that something else existed beyond the sterile white walls of the hospital and the ticking clock of his own mortality. With a trembling hand, he pressed record, The phone's screen flickered to life, capturing the scene before him. He framed the shot, focusing on the ghostly ballet of the empty swings. The laughter continued, tinkling through the phone's microphone, clear as a bell. Yet, as he watched the recording on the small screen, a cold dread, heavier than any sorrow he had ever known, began to seep into his bones. The swings were there, moving just as they were in reality. The sound was there, but something else was there. On the screen, where the empty swing seats should have been, two pairs of eyes had appeared. They were large and dark, impossibly round, reflecting the distant city lights like polished obsidian. They stared directly out of the phone, unblinking, ancient. There was no face, no body, no form, just the eyes, suspended in the digital ether, hanging in the space where a child should be. The giggling on the recording seemed to shift, twisting into something knowing, something that wasn't joyful at all. Kenji snatched the phone back, his breath catching in his throat. He looked up. The swings were still moving. The air was still filled with innocent laughter. But on his screen, the eyes just stared. They were a glitch in his reality, a phantom in his machine, and they saw him. They saw his fear, his sickness, his loneliness. He felt a sudden, profound certainty that they had been waiting for him, knowing he would come to this playground in the darkest hour, searching for anything at all. The laughter faded, and a new sound took its place, coming not from the park, but from the phone's speaker, a soft, drawn-out whisper of his own name.